to you by Spencer Callahan Injury. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in! Hunt Palmer coming to you from Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. That means we're brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. And we got plenty to get to over the next 2 hours. Got Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. We're talking LSU football. We're talking South Carolina football. We're talking Ole Miss football. We're talking Vandy football. LSU plays all three of the teams that join them on the set over in Dallas for SEC football kickoff media days, the MLB draft. Round 3 starting right this second. Got reaction to yesterday as well as what we'll see in rounds 3 through 10 today. So lots and lots and lots to get to over the next 2 hours, and we appreciate you making us part of your Monday. Let's immediately head right up to the Dallas area. Michael Cauble, sports director at Channel 2, is there taking in all that is SEC Media Days. He joins us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Cauble, is it as crazy as usual?
I'm sorry?
Is it as crazy as usual?
Yeah, actually it is. And it's a little bit more crazy. Hey, you know, everything's bigger in Texas, so it feels like they do have more people here, but they also have more space for us, which is nice. There's a lot of folks here. And I'm really starting to not like LSU leading off on day one because I feel like I don't have my sea legs under me yet. And it's a new venue, new state, and trying to, when it's in Hoover or whatever, Birmingham, we can kind of figure it out. But every time I got to figure out like where these hotel ballrooms are and who's where and where, what room they're going to next and all that jazz, it's a little bit chaotic. But LSU, like literally first team out of the gate, Brian Kelly, pretty much wrapped for the day. I think most of the players are done. Kind of winding down for LSU as SEC Media Days is just getting started.
It was Brian Kelly, Garrett Nussmeier, Harold Perkins, and Mason Taylor. Tell us what you got to see before I start asking you questions. I mean, how much are you able to gather over the course of the 2.5 hours that they're there?
Yeah, so it's a lot at once, right? We get to talk to the players off on our own a little bit before they get going with everybody else, and then I'll dip into the main room and I'll listen to what Brian Kelly has to say, and then we get to interview each of them again, basically in an electronic media room, which would be like a television room, for lack of a better word. I don't know why they just don't call it the television room, but and so we get to hear some of the things repeated a couple of different times, but it's great. You see them. I know the guys were on set with T-Bob earlier, and they had Coach Kelly as well. So it was, it's just kind of great to see them. And you get to talk to them a little bit off camera and talk to them like people and not just meat, So it's good. We got to talk to Harold Perkins about why he came, and what it meant to him to come. And same thing with Mason Taylor. When you think about Will Campbell being kind of an obvious choice to represent the team, to bring those two guys, it speaks, I guess, to what they're doing on the team right now and how Coach Kelly values their leadership and their importance to the team. And obviously Garrett's done a great job representing the Tigers. He always has, but now that he's the starting quarterback, it's a little different role for him, but he's still doing a fantastic job.
I'm curious how much you've interviewed Harold Perkins. He's been a massive presence for 2 years on the field, but I'm not certain that we've seen a lot of him in front of a camera. So what's that been like?
I think twice. If my recollection holds, I think we've talked to him twice. He's not a real, I'd say, voracious dude, right? He doesn't speak loquacious, I think is the word I was looking for. He's not very talkative, right? So you kind of got to pull some things out of him, but he's doing a better job with it. I talked to Michael Bonnet, and he said that Harold put in the most work of anybody as far as before coming here and getting prepped for this. And I think he was excited about the opportunity, but it's interesting, he is one of the faces of this LSU football team, but he is very unassuming, off the football field. So kind of getting him to talk about himself a little bit more and understanding, why people have an interest in him as a person. It takes a little bit of pulling it out of him, but he got going. He did well today.
He one of the things that I saw on Twitter was that he mentioned that he's gained 8 to 10 pounds. Or something else that Harold Perkins talked about that kind of piqued your interest? I know he's going to get the question 1,000 times. Where are you going to play? How are they going to use you? Is there anything beyond that?
Well, I just talked to him today about like what's important for him to have success this year. Basically, it's keeping hands off of him. Like as long as he's not getting grappled by tackles, then he can make the plays. And he feels like with a little bit of weight that he's added, he said he was up to 225. His ability to stay in the middle and not have teams scheme away from him, he can be a more impactful player. And he understands, and Brian said it too, to be successful at the next level, you can't play in the two teams. You've got to play bigger. And so one of the emphasis was getting him bigger for this football season, more physical than he already is. And he said he hasn't lost any of his speed, which sounded important to him, right? Like it was a point that he was making and putting out there. It was like he's still just as dynamic as he's been in the past. So I think that for him, it's about a comfort level. Talk about working with Blake Baker, and obviously Blake recruiting him, when Blake was there the first time at LSU, having him back. I think there's a little bit more comfort, a little bit more ease as far as communication, expectations, those kinds of things. So I think Harold's feeling a lot better about his situation this year. And he also talked about a lot of the players around him and how he has a good level of confidence in them and their ability to perform as well.
Is there a sense of the attitude around the defense? I was taken aback by the Twitter and Instagram messaging when the previous staff was let go and just kind of the feeling that some of the players had. You get it because they were terrible last year on the field. The results were awful. But, is there a sense of kind of a deep breath and a new life with Blake Baker?
I can't answer that, quite honestly. I haven't talked to enough of them. I feel like there is a little bit of a chip. They're not necessarily referencing a chip, but I do feel like they understand how poor they played last year, and I think they also understand, there are opportunities to show that they're better than they were, than they put out there last year. So, as far as an ease or a comfort, no, I actually haven't heard any of them disparage anything about last year. A lot of them have, talked about last year being last year, and they're not dwelling on that. That they understand, they have a new opportunity in front of them. But as far as like moving away or moving towards this, it's more of just a relatability that I think that I'm getting from. And again, it's just Harold talking here today, representing the defense. So that's a little tough too. I mean, you'd like to hear from some other guys, and I know we will as the season progresses. But there's lots of levels to this defense. And I did ask Harold about the defensive front, and he is very excited about how big those guys are. He referenced their size a number of times and how physical they are. So hopefully that bodes well for LSU, and their ability to clog the middle and let Harold, free him up and let him make some plays in space.
Chatting with Michael Caldwell, sports director at Channel 2. He's at SEC Media Days. LSU took their turn first out of the gate this morning over in Dallas. Let's move to offense. Brian Kelly was on with the morning show guys this morning and said, look, Mason Taylor's really good. We threw the ball to Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors a lot. I figured it was good we could get him in front of some media and kind of let him tell his story. Do you feel like he's option 2 in the passing game behind maybe Kyron Lacey?
I think it's going to be Kyron and Chris, and I do think there's going to be a concerted effort to get the tight ends more involved, and not just Mason. One of the things I've talked to Brian about in the past is their ability to kind of flesh out that room a lot more. They have legitimate tight ends now. They're not just guys that are filling up some roles or just solely in there to block. So, I do feel like they've gotten an opportunity, to improve that room, and it's a muscle that they should be flexing. Brian's mentioned it a number of times that they will throw their tight ends more. They need to get him down the field more. Because there's a common, perception that tight ends are going to be a safety blanket or a safety net, for their quarterback. But Mason's so much more than that. So I think his ability to really stretch the field, even not necessarily just down the seam, but like on the sidelines we saw in the bowl game, he can do a lot. And yes, I think he is going to be a huge weapon. I hope they utilize him to the degree that he is, capable of being used, because he's an absolute difference maker.
Brian Kelly famously said last year prior to the season, when can you be ready to field a championship-level team? He said, probably year 3. And that kind of took a lot of people, myself included, aback, going, hey, what about year 2? Well, they weren't very good on defense in year 2. Has he alluded to anything like that this year that he feels more comfortable with where the program is?
Yeah, a lot of the questions are about Brian Kelly's teams and their ability to make the jump in year 3 in the past. And he said this will be the most accountable team that we've had at LSU, just from the leadership standpoint that they have. So he has high expectations, I think, of his team. I asked him if he felt like they were being slept on, if they're being overlooked. And, he gave a classic coach answer that, he can't really worry about other people's perceptions of them. But I absolutely feel like there is that going on right now in the league. And look, there's probably a number of teams that could say that, right? I mean, everybody's going to talk about Texas and Oklahoma joining the league. Everybody's going to expect Georgia and Alabama to remain at the top. And then there's some contenders in maybe A&M and Ole Miss, maybe Tennessee. I don't know how well they reload, but I feel like LSU should be in that conversation, absolutely. And I feel like they should be in front of some of those other teams that they're considering contenders. It all hinges on that defense and how well can they play. But I have a lot of confidence in this offense and its ability to continue doing what they did, last year, just in a different way. And I think Brian kind of feels the same way. It's our time almost. So a lot like Jay Johnson has talked about with baseball, when you have the veteran guys and it's their time. LSU's kind of loaded with those guys right now, guys that have paid their dues the last couple of years and really can take that big step forward. And again, with the playoffs expanding, I don't see any reason why LSU couldn't be in that mix. There's legitimately 2 games that I think will be a challenge to LSU and that they could potentially lose. But other than that, I feel pretty strong about their schedule and the season that lays in front of them.
What's coming up on Channel 2 from Dallas?
Here's something for you, Hunt. I'm supposed to be interviewing Nick Saban. And, that's why I couldn't do 2 o'clock. So I'm going to talk to the granddad here in a little bit and just, obviously kind of gauge his thoughts as he transitions out of coaching and into television. Obviously, we're going to talk about a lot of the things that you and I just talked about tonight and like that year 3 role and the offensive expectations. Perkins. I don't know that we'll get to Mason today, but yeah, let's be honest, South Carolina, Vanderbilt aren't really going to move the needle. We'll see if Lane has anything interesting to say here in about an hour or so. But it's going to be pretty heavy LSU, and we'll be here all week. We're not leaving until Friday, so we've got everybody covered. And again, it's exciting. It's always exciting. It feels a little bit more exciting. This is the point that I would reference to you, and something that Brian said. And somebody asked him about the Ole Miss game. This is the direction that he took it. He said that was the game that made us evaluate our defense and look at it differently moving forward. And he said this a couple of times today. They recognized that was the deficiency. He talked about it for the opener in Florida State. He said it was eye-opening. We realized that our defense wasn't where it needed to be, and it became a weakness for us, all season long. So, they knew right away and kind of what they were playing with. I think it's nice to hear that honesty, and there wasn't anything they could do about it last year. But he made it a point to say, we made it a point to change those things, to go out and improve those things. And, whether that's the wholesale, changing of defensive staff, what have you, it's not lost on them, their deficiencies and where they're, now trying to improve and hopefully are improved. So Brian's actually walking by right now. It's the first time I've seen him in about an hour. So I guess he's not done, but they're still rolling here. So we'll see. Oh, he's going to shoot a taped interview. It looks like what they're going to do. I'm sitting in the background. Maybe I should wait.
Get your sea legs under you. Try to make sure T-Bob doesn't make any poor decisions. Tell Coach Saban thank you for retiring and enjoy your time in Dallas.
Right. That's the thing, right? What am I going to tell a Saban? Dude, there's so many people that are glad you did this. They just wish you did it 10 years earlier. I was thinking about it earlier. Why couldn't you do this in 2010? Say, maybe save us a lot of headaches in Baton Rouge.
It's true. Enjoy yourself, Cobble. Thanks for making some time.
You bet. Thanks, man. Take care. He's
Michael Cobble, WBRZ sports director over there at Channel 2. They'll have you covered from SEC Media Days all week long locally. I want to echo what Cobble said. I'm sitting here in Baton Rouge. You know that T-Bob and Jacob are there on Radio Row. Moscona's on Radio Row as well. Rivers running around with all them. And I echo his sentiment. I've done 3 SEC Media Days in my time. And while I think a lot of people from the outside would suggest, it's a little bit early, it's a lot of coaches saying a bunch of nothing, it's watered down a little bit, and all that kind of stuff may be true. But I will say this, from the inside of it, it is exciting. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of anticipation. People are just about ready to put the golf clubs away, and they're done with running their kids all over the beach and lake days and trying to deal with where your kids aren't in school. How do you deal with them? And getting back into the routine of the fall that is coming and football that comes with it. And I think this is the first sign that that's closer than we might think. I miss the days of going to SEC Media Days. Hopefully I'll get to go again sometime soon. But I'm jealous of those folks that are running around talking a lot of football. And we're going to talk a lot of football here over the next 4 days. Every team that takes their turn at the podium up in Dallas, we'll talk about on the show this week. So when we come back, I'm going to preview Ole Miss. The good thing about today's show is that the other three teams besides LSU are Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. And while South Carolina and Vanderbilt, as he said, don't really move the needle down here, LSU plays them both this year. So we will talk about all three of those teams. We'll start with Ole Miss coming up next.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. This is one of the talking points that I try to convey to you at least a couple times a week. Safety can be a huge issue in the bathroom, especially for those that are aging. If you've got a loved one in your life that is aging, wants to stay in that house because it's home, but could have some issues in the bathroom that could be hazardous, well, make it as safe as possible. Non-slip floors are available. Handrails around the toilets and showers and tubs, that's all available. They can do walk-in tubs that are more convenient and safer. They can do benches in the shower that can make things safer. That's a big deal. And it's something that a lot of people maybe don't think about, but they do it at One Bath and Closets all the time. If I've just rung a bell and you go, oh, that's probably something we should look into, get the free consultation. That doesn't cost you anything. Then, during that free consultation, say, hey, the Hunt Palmer Show sent me over here, heard about you there, $1,000 off. That's the start to this process. The finished product is a safer bathroom for someone in your life that you love. So go to OneBathAndClosets.com. Check out the testimonials. Check out the pictures of their great work. Get the free consultation. It's One Bath and Closets at OneBathAndClosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Value Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Value Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Value Ford is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows, live from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days, and it's LSU Day. We'll hear from the Tigers. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. For all your printing, scanning, copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products is your one-stop shop. Shout out to our guy, Trey Beal, and thanks to them for bringing you our Monday shows each and every week. Ole Miss is going to be a hot topic in Dallas for SEC Media Days, in the pre-season build-up, talking season, camp. And as Jacob and T-Bob said earlier today, this is likely the most anticipated season in the history of Ole Miss football. Certainly they had some really good teams in the 50s and 60s. Johnny Vaught did a heck of a job there. Eli's team was good. But this Ole Miss team has legitimate expectations to make the playoff, to contend in the playoff, and don't laugh, to try to win a national championship. Whether or not you believe that's possible, I don't really care. That's the expectation in Oxford that, yeah, we know we've been little old Ole Miss and we've never made the SEC championship game, and we get that, but this team should be different. And, oh, by the way, you're not letting 2 teams into the national championship game. You're not letting 4 teams into the national championship playoff. You're letting 12 teams into the national championship playoff. We ought to be part of that. That's how they feel in Oxford. Here's the deal. Lane Kiffin took over the Matt Luke train wreck in the middle of a global pandemic. And at that point, you couldn't really recruit, and they didn't have a lot of talent. And he took that team and managed to go 4-5 in league play, 5-5 overall, 500 after the disaster. And at that point, he kind of hit the ground running, and they did some recruiting, and they got some transfers in. And his second year, they went 6-2 in SEC play and finished the season 10-3. Pretty good. 10 wins for Ole Miss. The following year, they got out to an 8-1 start. So after a 10-3 season, they go 8-1. Well, they come to Baton Rouge, they get beat, they lose their last 4, and it all fell apart. And that's why this time last year, I was looking at Ole Miss going, okay, I know that they had a 10-win season 2 years ago, but the fact is that Matt Corral's gone, and I don't know if Jackson Dart's that good, and the defense still stinks, and they lost 5 games last year. Like, what are we talking about here? And I was wrong, because they went out and they won the most games in the history of Ole Miss football. They won 11 games last year. They went 6-2 again in the league. So over the last 3 years, they've got 2 6-2 SEC seasons. They do that this year and don't stub their toe against Wake Forest, they're going to be in the playoff. So it's not like they have to do something they've never done. They've got to do something they've done 2 of the last 3 years. Now, what is Jackson Dart? That's the question that is reasonable to ask. Last year, in totality, he threw for 3,300 yards, 23 touchdowns, 5 picks. He ran for 8 more touchdowns. Those statistics are very good. I could tell that story. I could also tell a story of a quarterback that at Bama went 20 of 35 for 244 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. Not great. I can tell you a quarterback that went to Georgia, went 10 of 17, 112 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. In those 2 games, he totaled 356 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks against Bama and Georgia. That's bad. Now, you want to pin all that on Jackson Dart. You want to say Lane Kiffin didn't have him ready to go. You want to say the offensive line stinks. Like, whatever the case may be, that's what he did against those 2 teams. Now, I could also paint you a picture against LSU. He was incredible. 26 of 39, 389 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He was fabulous. We all watched him that day. Now, LSU's defense was atrocious. Against Texas A&M, who did have a good defense. Their team wasn't good. The defense was good. 24 of 33, 387 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Very good. Is Jackson Dart capable of lifting this Ole Miss program one more rung? We'll see. He's got some help. Trey Harris comes back. He's a Como High native. Last year had 15 yards shy of 1,000, 8 touchdowns. Now 4 of those came in the opener against Mercer, so we'll pump the brakes totally on that, but he's a good player. Last year against Texas A&M, 11 catches for 213 and a touchdown. Against LSU, 153 yards. Had 134 yards on Penn State. So good option, Trey Harris. Caden Prieskorn at tight end. Big, physical, 6'5", 255. Had a solid 2023. The big thing with him, he had a huge bowl game. Against Penn State, 10 catches for 136 and 2 touchdowns. The offensive line is, I think, where Lane Kiffin said, we got to get better than this, because last year, Georgia just whitewashed them. I mean, they absolutely crushed Ole Miss. And Lane Kiffin said after the game, like, we're just not there. They're bigger and badder than us. So they bring 3 starters back on the offensive line. They add Date Kalepo from Washington, who started 15 games for them. They were in the national final last year. And you figure maybe they're a little bit more physical at the point of attack. Quinshon Judkins moves on, so they go with the most presidential of names in the SEC, Ulysses Bentley IV. He's their first-team running back. They also bring in a transfer from South Carolina, Juice Wells. He had a foot injury last year, but 2 years ago was first-team All-SEC, had 928 yards and 6 touchdowns. Like, the offense, all those starters back on the offensive line, a third-year starter at quarterback, legit number 1 in Trey Harris, first-team All-Conference transfer, a tight end. Like, they have all the pieces offensively that you would want. What is the defense? Pete Golding, year 2. Like, Georgia scored 52 on him. So they figure, well, we got to go get bigger and badder on the defensive front as well. They get Walter Nolan, 6'4", 290, former 5-star recruit from A&M, had 4 sacks, 8.5 tackles for loss. Like, that's a big ad for them. Big physical dude. They go, and I got to work on this name, bear with me, from Florida, Princely Umanmielen. I watched him say it. So, Princely Umanmielen, maybe. Either way. They got him from Florida. 11.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks for Florida last year. And you still have J.J. Pegues on that side of the ball, who's 315 pounds up front. You've got Jared Ivey, who had 5.5 sacks and 11.5 TFLs last year. Like, on paper, it's very difficult to poke a lot of holes in Ole Miss. It just is. You can say they're still Ole Miss, and you can say they never won anything, and all that would be correct. But on paper, it looks really good. So the question is, what's the schedule and what comes of it? And I'll give it to you right here. They play Furman and Middle Tennessee to open things up and go 2-0. They're at Wake. I just don't have a issue saying Ole Miss is going to go to Wake Forest and win. That seems to be likely. Then they got Georgia Southern. Then they got Kentucky at home. They're at South Carolina. I think they're going to win all of those games. That means when they come to Tiger Stadium for a night game, they will be 6-0 in my estimation. That is going to be an absolute madhouse. After LSU, there's a bye week. Oklahoma comes to Oxford. Then they're at Arkansas. Then Georgia comes to Oxford. So that's the stretch. At LSU, bye, Oklahoma, at Arkansas, Georgia. Then you've got a bye week at Florida. I think they'll win that game. And then Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl in Oxford. They do not play Bama. They do not play Missouri. They do not play Tennessee. They do not play Texas. They do not play A&M. So when I look at this schedule for me, for Ole Miss, and I realize I'm not using this term literally, but in my eyes, their possible losses are only at LSU, Oklahoma, and Georgia. I don't believe they're losing at Wake. I don't think Kentucky's going to Oxford and winning. I don't think they're going to lose at South Carolina. I don't think they're losing at Arkansas. I don't think they're losing at Florida. And I don't think Mississippi State's going to Oxford and winning. Could it happen? Absolutely. And that would lend to probably many of the LSU fans' points of, well, they're still little Ole Miss. And that may be true. But to me, I think they only have 3 possible losses. And if they go 1-2 in those 3, I think they're in the playoff. Now, let's just run that out hypothetically. Say they lose in Tiger Stadium. Let's humor the home crowd here in Baton Rouge. Let's say they lose in Tiger Stadium. They will be 10-2 with wins over Oklahoma and Georgia. That, to me, is a playoff team. Let's say they lose to Georgia. Big, bad Georgia, number one in the country, best roster in America, maybe the most dominant program in the country over the last 4 years. Let's say they lose to Georgia in Oxford. That's still a team that won in Tiger Stadium at night and beat Oklahoma and went 10-2. I think they're a playoff team. I think the way Ole Miss is not in the playoff is they lose to LSU, Oklahoma, and Georgia. Sure, you can paint me a picture that Kentucky beats them. I guess I see a scenario that Jeff Lebby goes up there to Oxford in the Egg Bowl and things get crazy and they beat them 48-46. Sure. But if I'm trying to be realistic and tell you what I actually think, I think Ole Miss is a likely playoff team at 10-2. If they can win one of LSU, Oklahoma, and Georgia, and two of those are at home. Weird to say, but it's July. Things can change. That's my preview of the Ole Miss Rebels. We'll get to Vanderbilt at the end of the hour. LSU does play them. We'll get to South Carolina in hour number 2 as well. Day 2 of the Major League Baseball draft is underway. Round 3, there's a lot to get to for LSU today. Rounds 3 through 10, but I want to react to last night. Coming up next at the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
All these football games I'm talking about, you're going to want to watch them. You're going to have a hard time watching if you have no electricity. So make sure that doesn't happen. Folks at Boudreaux's Electrical can help you with that. They're a certified Generac dealer. They are a premier Generac home standby generator sales department. They're top 3% nationwide. Give them a call at 985-397-1562 and have that appointment today. Let them come out, assess your needs, get that generator installed at your home. It's going to be a Boudreaux's Electric employee that does all the installation. They're going to do most of it underground. It's going to look good, and it's going to work well. When that storm blows through, when that hurricane comes through, you'll maintain your power. I got a text from a buddy today down in New Orleans who's without power, and he's going nuts. That's his fault because he doesn't have a generator from Boudreaux's Electrical. You can have one and avoid that situation at your home. Give them a call at 985-397-1562 or visit them online at boudreauxelectrical.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
The best.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows, live from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days, and it's LSU Day. We'll hear from the Tigers. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Day 2 of the Major League Baseball draft is underway. Rounds 3 through 10 today. Really the most impactful day when it comes to the forming of LSU's roster for 2025 will be today. Again, to refresh your memories, everyone that is picked today is very, 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 very likely to sign. An agreement is done if they are picked today. Now, at times, medicals and things happen and they fall through, but it's incredibly rare. 1, 2, 3 guys a year, maybe, don't sign in the first 10 rounds. Like, that's how this thing works. Now, when you get 11 to 20, that's a free-for-all. Guys get picked all the time that don't sign. It doesn't matter. But you've got a draft pool. It's for your first 10 rounds. If you don't sign a guy that you draft in the first 10 rounds, you lose that money in your draft pool. So it behooves you to draft guys who are going to sign. So let's talk about yesterday first, briefly, before we get into today. Connor Griffin goes 9 to the Pirates. We knew that was coming. Cam Caminiti goes 24 to Atlanta. A few picks after, I thought, but those two guys were never coming to LSU. Tommy White goes 40 to Oakland. Boston Bateman, who we told you about last week on Friday, we anticipated he would be drafted and signed. Big left-hander in the freshman class. He did get drafted at 52 to San Diego. He will be moving on. Right near the end of the draft, Luke Coleman goes to the Cincinnati Reds. That is really funny on a few levels because his coach was aiding a guy who was betting at the Reds ballpark, and that was the precipice for the entire Alabama explosion that ended in the firing of their head coach, and it was all centered around Holman, and now he's being picked by the Reds. That's funny. And then Gage Jump goes to Oakland right after that, near the end of round 2. So LSU-centric, Connor Griffin, Cam Caminiti, Tommy White, Boston Bateman, Gage Jump, and Luke Holman all drafted yesterday. The name that did not get drafted yesterday is William Schmidt, and that is massive news for LSU. I told you on Friday that the intel I had received from the LSU side of things was that he was gone, that there was no anticipation he would be in Baton Rouge. Something changed over that 48 hours because he alerted teams prior to the draft, hey, lay off. Now, whether or not there were some significant discussions about numbers that probably were, or whether he just looked at this and said, you know what, I'm an 18-year-old kid. I want to be a kid a few more years. I've always wanted to play at LSU. Pro money will be there more likely than not when I move on, and we'll do it this way. I'm ready to be a kid, not a pro. But either way, he's coming to LSU. And I was a little surprised, I'll be honest, at the blowback I got on Twitter because William Schmidt put out a tweet, said, call in Baton Rouge, time for another natty, let's go, which doesn't lock anybody into anything. He didn't tweet, I'm out of the draft. He didn't tweet, I'm definitely coming to LSU. He just tweeted, call in Baton Rouge, time to go win another natty. So I'm getting texts from my guy Jacob Beck, who's saying, go Bears. I'm getting texts from some other folks, and I'm going, wait a second, this doesn't mean everything. And I took to Twitter, and I was like, look, I just find it hard to believe that 2 hours before the draft starts, he's sending out a tweet that's going, everybody go home. Just feels like somebody may call him with the 11th pick and say, hey, how about $4 million? I'm just not willing to celebrate 2 hours before the draft without clarification. And I got crushed on Twitter.
I mean, I can't say that you making that point is incorrect. However, I would tend to side on the belief that William Schmidt was not making that tweet hours before the draft just so he could possibly
extort another 600 grand.
Exactly. I don't believe that he would do something like that. I don't know him personally, of course. Maybe he would. I don't know. But I would tend to side with the belief that he would not do that just so he can try to make a little bit more money in the draft.
And that's perfectly reasonable. And then I would point to the example of Paul Gervais 2 years ago, who in the middle of the draft, as picks were coming off, tweeted, and we all thought Gervais was going to get drafted and sign and go. And in the middle of the draft, he tweeted, "I'm coming back for another year, go Tigers." And then someone called him and said, "Hey, what about this?" And he immediately said yes, he got drafted, deleted the tweet, and signed a pro contract. I was just suggesting that maybe it was leverage. Maybe he just felt like, I don't know about this. And then someone calls 20 minutes later, before the draft starts, mind you, and says, "Hey, what about 4.1? And then everything changes. I just wasn't willing to throw an internet party with everyone else at 2 hours before the draft starts about William Schmidt. And then when Kylie McDaniel reported he's told teams not to draft him, and then he reported he's formally withdrawn from the draft, then I'm ready to party. And I sent it out. I'm like, that's all I need to hear. When I took the tweet, I was like, I'm not ready to immediately dive into this with everybody else. And folks were not happy with that. I was just told I was an eternal pessimist and a fun sponge. And I got attacked by a former major leaguer saying I didn't know what I was talking about. And I was just like, I'm not trying to be combative at all. I'm just saying a tweet is not going to lock me into a celebration unless it's Derek Curiel a month ago who tweeted out, "Hey, I'm withdrawing from the draft and going to LSU. This process is over." Well, I'll throw a party for that. Then you come to another tweet, which was Keith Law, who I actually think does a good job scouting baseball. I just have a fundamental disagreement and different point of view with him on college baseball, which is fine. I'm a huge college baseball fan. I want my team to win. He thinks college baseball coaches are very, very bad for college baseball pitchers. And there are times when he probably has a point and times where he's overly cautious. And for him to say about William Schmidt that allowing the industry to scout you all spring long only to withdraw 2 hours early is a choice, if we're being kind, which is disparaging William Schmidt. And I just think that's absurd, patently. There are so many players that these organizations scout. And my question to Keith would be, okay, when is an acceptable time for him to say, you know what, I'm not going to do this? Is it acceptable 24 hours before the draft? Is it acceptable a week before the draft? Do you have to make that decision in March so they don't come scout you? Because William Schmidt in February was not a first-round pick. There was very little buzz on him as a guy that could climb up the draft boards. But he had a phenomenal senior year at Catholic, and that made folks come in to scout him, and this was all new to him. And he was taking that in, and I'm sure being accessible as possible, all the while, I'm sure being very transparent about how much he liked LSU. He went to the freaking regional in Chapel Hill. And at this point, he takes some calls, takes some offers, and I think it's probably courteous of him. You could frame it as courteous to say, hey, I realize we're making a lot of phone calls, a lot of deals are going down right now. Y'all don't call me anymore. Call the next guy on your list. Instead of having them call and say, hey, I really don't want to have the conversation. Like, it's just, Keith Law thinks a lot of himself. That's pretty evident by his tone of voice and his tone in his tweets. And he thinks so little of college baseball, and I think he thinks very little of the folks that care about college baseball because, quite frankly, a lot of us are in one area of the country. And I just thought his tweet was so off base yesterday and so unnecessary. But, again, it's his ability to belittle someone, I think, is he feeds off that. And just kind of the way things work, I thought it was a ridiculous tweet. So, to get to today's action, this is what you're watching over the next 3.5 hours or so. Griffin Herring, Jared Jones, Cale Fountain, Kason Evans, Maverick Rizzi, Connor Ware, Mikey Ryan. If anything happens, we'll let you know. I've got a segment set up at the back end of the show to kind of update the first 2 hours of the draft. As of right now, the only activity that's gone on for LSU in the MLB draft that I know of is Thatcher Hurd has been selected 3rd round, 89th overall to the Yankees. So Thatcher Hurd, I know, did not have the junior season he was hoping for, but I think I can speak for all of LSU Nation to tip a collective hat to Thatcher Hurd for an incredible run of baseball last June that started at Alex Box Stadium in the regional, that went into the Wake Forest game, that was massive to get LSU to the final, and then, of course, his Game 3 start in the national final, which was spectacular. Again, not the best year as a junior. That's okay. You got all you needed from him in June of last year, and wish him absolute best with the Yankees. You knew that even though the production wasn't there this past year, that someone was going to take a chance on those measurables and metrics. Someone did, the Yankees at 89 in the draft. So I'll continue to monitor the draft over the next hour and 15 minutes, and I'll keep you updated with anything that does happen. But a very, very, very important day, because the folks that don't get picked today likely will be on LSU's baseball team next year. They could be picked tomorrow, but I think it's likely that they will be on LSU's team next year. So we'll keep you posted on that. When we come back, everybody's favorite segment, one of LSU's opponents this year. Let's talk about Vanderbilt football next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy, evolvept.com. Robbie Bolton, nearly 20 years as a physical therapist. He's right here in the Baton Rouge market, and Evolve Physical Therapy is the physical therapy team in town. I think a lot of folks, based on my conversations with Robbie and his conversations with his clients, have had bad physical therapy experiences. There's not enough hands-on, not enough instruction, not enough recovery, not enough development. That's not going to be the case at Evolve Physical Therapy. Robbie's job and his passion is getting active people back to being their active selves, whether it's a youth athlete that's been hurt, whether it's a high school or college athlete that's dealing with an injury or something physical, or whether it's a 65-year-old that just wants to get back on that pickleball court badly, back on that tennis court badly. He can help with that. If you're unhappy with where you've been with physical therapy, go to Robbie. He says this all the time. Once I see you once, I will see you forever. Robbie Bolton and his team at Evolve Physical Therapy, the physical therapy clinic in town here in Baton Rouge. They're on Starring near Highland Road. Can't miss the building right there on Starring. You can also check them out online at evolvept.com. It's Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports, evolvept.com.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Mosco.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Bank & Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank & Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Elevate brand visibility, ignite customer engagement with the power of radio and digital advertising combined. Guarantee Digital Media brings the two together as a trusted media partner in Louisiana for nearly a century. Claim your free digital audit at guaranteemedia.com.
Rev Business is here to connect your company beyond your storefront. We're here to power your passion, improve your communication, and link you to your customers with the services you need and the local support you deserve. Backed by our commitment to 5-star reliability. For a limited time, get internet plus 2 hosted phone lines for only $133. A powerful combination at a great price. Visit letsrev.biz. Rev Business.
Érase una vez un Infinity, diseñado para despertar tu imaginación y desafiarte a soñar, con 3 lujosas filas de asientos. El totalmente nuevo Infinity QX80 de 3 filas.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2640.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows, live from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days, and it's LSU Day. We'll hear from the Tigers. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Just did a little MLB draft segment there, and I'll continue to monitor. You're getting into Jared Jones, Griffin Herring territory here. We're late in the third, fourth, fifth. So the next hour when we're on the air is real time, where there's significant money still to be had, and that those two guys kind of profile in that spot. So we'll keep you updated as we continue to churn through the Major League Baseball draft. All right, let's talk Vandy football briefly here. Under Clark Lee, they are 2-22 in league play. They have gone 0-8 twice. They went 0-8 in 2021. They went 0-8 this past year. They also this past year went out and lost to UNLV. I know that because my cousin's husband, who I'm good buddies with, went to Vanderbilt, and they went out to Las Vegas to watch that one, and they lost to UNLV. They did not win a single game after September 2nd last year. LSU's first game was on September 3rd last year. So Vanderbilt didn't win a game after LSU kicked off last year. They were outscored in SEC games 277 to 135. That's an average of about 35 to 17. Their closest SEC loss was 16 points to Auburn. Interestingly enough, really the only thing that's interesting about Vanderbilt football is they're going to try something completely different this year, which I am all for when you're Vanderbilt. You have no chance traditionally doing anything. They're going to do things differently. They hired Tim Beck, offensive coordinator from New Mexico State, and he's going to coordinate their offense, and they're going to run option concepts. They've got a new quarterback in, Diego Pavea. He was at New Mexico State for a couple of years with Tim Beck. Nate Johnson was the backup at Utah, filled in a little bit for Cam Rising. He's a good athlete as well. Those two guys are going to kind of run an option-style offense. In fact, so option-oriented that they're going to flip the offensive line to strong side, weak side. So theoretically, you're going to put your better two offensive line to the strong side of the formation every single time and kind of run it that way. The defense was almost last in the country last year in yards per game. They allowed 36 points per game. They were atrocious. I anticipate a lot more of the same on all fronts this coming year because it's Vanderbilt. The schedule is Virginia Tech to open, Alcorn State, at Georgia State, at Missouri. Then they got a bye week. They play Bama, at Kentucky, Ball State, Texas, at Auburn, South Carolina, another bye week. They're at LSU the week before the last week. They'll play Tennessee, LSU will play Vanderbilt, and then Oklahoma. Vanderbilt does not play Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. I don't have a lot to say here. It's a dead-end job. They are building a stadium. They will have more of road fans than home fans at every home game that they play. They're not going to be very good. And I just adore the fact that LSU for the next 2 years on the schedule has games against Vanderbilt and none against Georgia. That's the lone positive about this, dismantling the divisions and not really knowing who your opponents are going to be year over year and trying to figure out if they're going to be 8 games or 9 games and trying to figure out who gets to play who and what tournament's opponent are going to shake out. We know that whoever you play this year, you're going to play next year in the other spot. LSU will travel to Nashville at Vanderbilt next year in 2025, and there are no two greater words in all of Southeastern Conference football scheduling than at Vanderbilt. Those are the nicest two. So look, A.J. Swan comes over from Vanderbilt to LSU. They've also had Ken Seals and Walter Taylor. All those guys have transferred out. They've got new guys at quarterback. They're going to try something different. I credit Clark Lee for that. He's going to try to build this thing brick by brick and find a way to respectability. And if he thinks running the option is the best way to do it, God bless him. I'm all for it because trying to sit there and play traditional football just isn't quite going to cut it. But quite frankly, I would anticipate they'll probably go 0-8 again. Maybe they get the option thing rolling and pick off a game here and go 1-7. They're not going to sniff a bowl game. They're not going to be relevant, and nobody's going to really want to hear about them later on this afternoon from Dallas at the podium. My one lasting memory from Vanderbilt SEC Media Days is the cow insemination that we got. I don't even remember the interim coach's name, but he started talking about artificially inseminating and actually inseminating animals, and it was the most interesting thing Vanderbilt's ever done in front of a podium in SEC Media Days. I don't anticipate a lot more intrigue coming this afternoon, so we'll just kind of leave our Vanderbilt football discussion at that as we wrap up hour number one. I don't think they'll be good. We'll leave it at that. That's it for hour
Great
number
analysis,
one.
Hunt.
Thank you. That's why they pay me thousands of dollars literally every single year to get in front of this microphone and talk about stuff like that. So in hour number two, we're going to hear some sound from Brian Kelly as he was in front of the media in Dallas today. I'll preview South Carolina, who LSU will play early in the season in Columbia, get you an update on the Major League Baseball draft as it is ongoing. So lots and lots to get to. Our Monday shows are brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, it's Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. Come back after Sports Center. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
When you fall, you gotta get up.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, party plank, and vinyl siding. But our number one product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Is Sports Center.
I'm Christine Lisi. The future of the SEC, a topic Commissioner Greg Sankey was asked about multiple times as the conference's media days got underway today. Despite speculation, Clemson and Florida State could land in the SEC if they leave the ACC. Expansion is not on Sankey's mind.
From 14 deep to 16 strong. 16 is our today, and 16 is our tomorrow. We know who we are. In the Southeastern Conference, we're the one conference at this level where the name still means something. The southeastern part of the United States, where when we expanded, we actually restored historic rivalries.
SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, the SEC is at 16 after adding Texas and Oklahoma. Spurs shut down rookie point guard Stephon Castle the rest of the Vegas Summer League because of a right wrist sprain. He was the 4th overall pick in last month's NBA draft. The Lions will induct Pro Football Hall of Famer Calvin Johnson into their Pride of the Lions halftime of their September 30th game versus Seattle. The Home Run Derby in baseball spotlight tonight, 8 Eastern, ESPN Radio and ESPN.
Hey, it's Evan Cohen from Unsportsmanlike. If you missed any of this week's shows, make sure to check out the Unsportsmanlike podcast on the ESPN app or wherever you get your podcast. And be sure to tune in every weekday at 6 a.m. Eastern. It's Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Attention to something quite extraordinary.
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Hope your work week is off to a good start. Shout out to the folks at Gulf Coast Office Products. All your printing, scanning, and copying needs, Gulf Coast Office Products, GCOPnet.com. Shout out to our guy, Trey Beal. Had a lot of discussion in the first hour. Talked to Ole Miss, talked to Vandy, a little MLB draft. Also talked to Michael Cobble from Dallas, where SEC Media Days is off and running. LSU took turn first there in the Omni in downtown Dallas. Right now, the Ole Miss Rebels are taking their turn. Lane Kiffin in the big room. But Brian Kelly had that opportunity earlier today. And I want to get to some of the things that he had to say to the assembled media there in Dallas. And the first question that Brian Kelly got, and I know he got this question multiple times, it's not surprising, was about year 3. Because year 3, his last 2 stops at Cincinnati and Notre Dame were really, really quality football team. Cincinnati made a BCS Bowl, and Notre Dame played for a national championship in year 3. And the question was asked, like, why, Brian Kelly, in year 3 have your teams had the success they've had?
Year 3 is a level of accountability in every program that I've taken over that is heightened. There's a trust factor and an accountability level within our process that kind of, I would say, pops, if you will. And that's this year. So this will be the most accountable football team that we've had at LSU. This will be a team that trusts each other at its highest level. And that has historically led to on-field success.
Now, when you hear that, the listener, I'm assuming you have the same reaction I do. And it's like, okay, I get it, but there was no transfer portal when you were at Cincinnati. There was no transfer portal at Notre Dame. You might have a couple of guys transfer out as just basic attrition, but this is a far bigger deal where you've got people coming and going all the time. Like, how can you suggest that the entirety of the program is bought in when there's so much turnover? And that question was immediately asked as a follow-up, like, does the transfer portal impact that quote-unquote buy-in and all that accountability that comes with year 3?
You have to take that into consideration when you're bringing players into your program. So understanding who you're bringing in and what the expectations are of them. So, you know, when you have built that standard and that accountability. You can't just start throwing guys in there and not having them understand the same level. So you may have to pass on some guys if they don't meet. Look, there's two things that have to happen having said that. One, they have to have the skill to play at LSU, but they got to fit the culture. And sometimes both of those don't work in that situation.
You know, Brett Bielema didn't have a Hall of Fame-worthy career at Arkansas. I think we would all agree on that. But he did have a quote in this exact setting, SEC Media Days, that has always stuck with me because I found it interesting. And I think he believes it, and I think a lot of coaches try this, but it's a different thing altogether to make it happen. Brett Bielema's quote was, "You recruit your own problems." And Brian Kelly talks about you've got to have guys that fit the culture. You've got to have guys that can play at LSU, but they've got to buy in. And I think you can. I'm not going to name any names. I think you can pretty quickly point to two guys who transferred in last year, who were either very, very highly recruited or had success elsewhere, and did not fit in at LSU. Maybe it was because they couldn't play to the level. Maybe it was because they didn't fit the culture, but it didn't work. Now they took them, and you pay that price because they don't play, they don't help you, and obviously you've got some issues on that side of the ball. But I'm curious if Brian Kelly's approach changed after taking those two guys. And I guess we'll just have to see what this team looks like, how they perform, and what the culture is around the program, whether or not Brian Kelly has got a group of guys around him that are fully bought in. Now, that's one topic of conversation here for Brian Kelly. Another that has come up a bunch and that we'll all talk about, incessantly in August. LSU lost Mississippi State in the opener, then they lost to UCLA in the opener, then they lost to Florida State in the opener, then they lost to Florida State again in the opener, and now you're going on year 5 of trying to lose 5 straight openers. And can you do anything differently to ramp this thing up to make sure your team is ready to play in that first game? And Brian Kelly spoke to that.
I think openers give you a glimpse of who you are more than we're not preparing the right way. I've been preparing football teams for over 30 years, and I don't know that we'll have a major shift in our preparation as much as knowing who we are going into year 3 and knowing what our strengths and weaknesses. I think we go into this game knowing a lot better about who we are, LSU, both on offense and defense.
And that's fair, because if you go back to the first game he coached at LSU, which was against Florida State, they had no idea who they were. He told the broadcast team that Friday, prior to the Sunday kickoff, that Jaden Daniels would be the starting quarterback. Now, I think he knew that prior to that, but the team may not have known until pretty close to the opener who their quarterback was. After that game, they made wholesale changes to the offensive line and the special teams units. They were nowhere near the same team when they took the field against Alabama in Tiger Stadium that they were in that game in the Superdome. They did not know who they were. And then this past year, I think he probably had some concerns on defense. Those of us who just went out to fall camp and watched these guys play had some concerns about the defense, but I think they got exacerbated when you looked at that Florida State game. Hopefully, you've got a better feel for who you are, what players are in your program, and what you need to do to get ready to beat Southern Cal in Vegas. And I guess the biggest issue there is not taking over for the Heisman Trophy winner or the 2 first-round draft picks on offense. It is the defense. So what's the biggest progression on this defense since the spring under Blake Baker?
Scheme aside, I think everybody has, their flavor of what the scheme, looks like. And Blake certainly has an established comfort level in a particular scheme. But it's relationships. It's getting players excited about stepping on the field. It's about players truly wanting to be part of those 11 guys, running, hitting, being part of that unit. And Blake's ability to orchestrate that, to bring that together, is what's been the piece that is really evident.
We have gotten to the point with Brian Kelly's LSU program that we don't have to talk about the Texas Bowl 3 years ago anymore. We all know that there were 35 guys out there and that a wide receiver was playing quarterback, and that was a relevant talking point to Brian Kelly's early tenure here at LSU. We don't have to talk about that anymore. And we know that the team that he had in his first year was kind of a makeshift team out of transfer portal guys. And we know that there are still some concerns on the roster this past year as far as depth goes. And we still may have some questions as far as the talent level on the interior defensive line and maybe some of the other places on the roster. But they've got their full complement of scholarship players, and there's not a position where they just don't have any guys. So Brian Kelly kind of spoke to that and suggested this is the deepest team he's had at LSU.
This will be the deepest team that we've had. So I don't know what that's going to be relative to the expectations. All I can do is continue to work towards what our process is, and then whatever those outcomes are going to be evaluated externally. And I don't control those. I control what our process is and how we go to work every day. And I can tell you, in year 3, I've had really good success with getting our football team to be the most accountable, the most trusting team that I've had here at LSU. And that's usually been pretty good at my other stops.
He's good at this. Like he's going to do a good job in front of the cameras. He'll do a good job on the ESPN and SEC network desks. He'll do a good job with the local media. Like he's good at this type of stuff. He's been around long enough. He's got a good enough personality. He presents himself well in this setting. So for me, it's not necessarily learning anything completely eye-opening or getting that great soundbite from him. It's optimism season, and that's the picture that he's painting. I will tell you, of all that I heard from Brian Kelly, and I haven't heard everything he said, Matt will have more on that coming up in 50 minutes from Dallas, where he's probably followed Brian Kelly around all day. I can only do so much back here in Baton Rouge. He did say one thing that I kind of opened my ear a little bit and furrowed my brow and went, okay, that's something. Nick Saban asked him about somebody or something that maybe surprised you a little bit about your team. And he came out and said, basically, I don't like giving labels to young players early on. I feel like it unfairly sets expectations. He mentioned Kyle Hamilton at Notre Dame, who they thought was a really, really good player, and he kind of tamped that down, and then he went out and had a monster opener, and the rest was history, and he was a first-round pick to the Ravens. But he doesn't want to necessarily anoint guys early on. But he mentioned 3 names. 3 names from this signing class that's on campus now. And it interested me. He mentioned Dominic McKinley, 5-star defensive lineman to Acadiana. There's some playing time to be had and potentially a talent grade that needs to take place at defensive tackle. He mentioned Gabe Relaford, same thing. 4-star Louisiana defensive line, okay. And he mentioned Jelani Watkins as probably the fastest player on the team. We kind of knew that based on his track times over in Texas. But if you're looking at the freshman class, this was not tell me about Dom McKinley. It wasn't tell me about Gabe Relaford. It wasn't tell me about Jelani Watkins. He brought those 3 guys up with an open-ended question of what's kind of surprised you? And I thought, okay. And look, I don't want to sit here and bank on 2 freshmen jumping into the Southeastern Conference on the defensive front and playing 80% of the snaps. I don't want to bank on that. But maybe they're better than we thought. Maybe they're more college ready than most are. That's my one hope about these 2 guys specifically, McKinley and Relaford, is that college freshmen are the most prepared to play college football they've ever been, based on nutrition, strength programs, coaching, camps, early enrollees, all that kind of stuff has expedited the learning curve. Guys are redshirting in the mid-90s. Guys weren't playing much in the late 20-teens. Now they're kind of ready. And we'll see if those guys are. Brian Kelly alluded to that, and I thought that was an interesting thing from today. We're going to listen to Brian Kelly's sound all week long here on the show. We've got a ton of it that he's offered up over the last 3 hours. Matt will no doubt get to plenty of that on his show coming up in 45 minutes. But that's kind of what I wanted to hit on today. We'll talk about Garrett Nussmeier tomorrow. We'll talk about Harold Perkins tomorrow. We'll talk about Mason Taylor tomorrow. We'll get into all that as the week moves on, but I didn't want to kind of waste everything in one day. When we come back, we're going to talk about South Carolina. LSU goes to Columbia early on. I think it's going to be an interesting contest. Shane Beamer had a lot to say today. We'll get to that as well as the Major League Draft as it continues. We'll talk about that at the bottom of the hour in 15 minutes. Don't go anywhere. It's a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Visit LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino this summer for exciting live sports action. They got the biggest screens around, and ESPN Bet is live in Louisiana. Plus, Pin Play Rewards members can win up to $500 in pin cash every single week. It's a new week. $500 available out there for you. So visit pinplaysports.com/cover5 today and register for your chance to play and win. Not a member? Get the Pin Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino is your live sports headquarters. Bring your crew for all the action. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 877-770-STOP.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage. Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows, live from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days, and it's LSU Day. We'll hear from the Tigers. Join us 3 to 6, 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Parrish Construction and Roofing bring you live coverage of the 2024 SEC Football Media Days all this week. As you already heard this morning, OTB, of course, and then AFR from 3 to 6. Find highlights from the week on the 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel. Our coverage is also brought to you locally by Rev Business and Relief Windows. Follow us from Dallas all this week for the 2024 SEC Football Media Days presented by Parrish Construction and Roofing.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
So, SEC Media Days off and running from Dallas. I know this day, definitely for T-Bob, Jacob, and Matt, is very, very busy because they are asked to do a lot of out-of-market interviews because it's LSU Day, so you get the LSU guy on. I know that Matt's already done Sports Talk Mississippi. I know T-Bob was on with the guys at Texags. It's very, very busy, but I'm sure Matt will have an awesome show coming up for you this afternoon in 40 minutes from Radio Row in Dallas. 4 teams today: LSU, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Vanderbilt. Lane Kiffin just wrapped things up with the big room, the big print media room, and Shane Beamer already taking his turn there, as has Brian Kelly. Clark Lee will come up a little bit later. I heard a lot of what Shane Beamer had to say, and so we'll talk about South Carolina now. They are on LSU's schedule this year and will be next year as well. Under Shane Beamer, South Carolina started things off going 7-6, 3-5 in league play, and you kind of thought the 2022 might be the fire starter for Shane Beamer at South Carolina. They went 8-5, 4-4 in league play, so one bump up both overall and in league play. But however, they beat Tennessee that year and beat Clemson, and they were bringing Spencer Rattler back. So it felt like maybe this is the start of something if they're going to get it going at South Carolina. And they fell on their face. They went 5-7, 3-5 in league play. They started 2-6, and at 2-6 were tied with Jacksonville State entering the fourth quarter. So it all fell apart for South Carolina. Some of that was due to injury. Some of that was due to very, very poor play. Spencer Rattler is gone. Xavier Legette is gone. Juice Wells is at Ole Miss. Trey Knox, their tight end, is with the Vikings. Like, not only were they bad last year, like they've lost a lot of the key pieces from that offense. But Shane Beamer said, have no fear. I know that most of y'all are going to pick us 14th, 15th, 16th in the league. That's fine. You all thought we were really good last year, and we weren't. We feel really good about it. We're going to be good. We feel great about the football team. I'm glad he feels great about the football team because I don't. I don't feel great about their football team. They're going to turn the keys over to the offense from Spencer Rattler to Lenoris Sellers. He's a redshirt freshman, 6'3", 245 pounds from Florida, South Carolina. He was a 4-star recruit. He enrolled early last year. He played in 3 games in mop-up duty last year, and he earned their spring Most Outstanding Offensive Player award and was dubbed the starting quarterback. They brought in some competition for him. Robbie Ashford, who you'll recall from Auburn, was brought into South Carolina to kind of compete. But Lenoris Sellers has won that job. He is a really, really good athlete. He runs well. He's got a big arm. Like, he's got a lot of tools. And I was listening to the SEC Network guys earlier today. They kind of liken him to KJ Jefferson at Arkansas. Big arm, physical, can run, but raw, and is going to have to improve. And if you saw KJ Jefferson early in his career, you saw a lot of that. So that's what Lenoris Sellers is as their signal caller. Their offensive line last year, I don't have the words to suggest to you how bad it was. They could not run the ball at all. They gave up a ton of sacks to a veteran quarterback. Like, they were awful last year on the offensive line. They appear to be healthy, and you've got to suggest that they'll be better, but they also have lost a ton of playmakers. Shane Beamer said today, we got like 7 or 8 guys at wide receiver. I don't know who's the first best, the second best, the third best, or the 7th best. We're going to have to figure that out in fall camp. One name that you might be familiar with as LSU fans, especially if you follow recruiting, is Nick Harbor. Nicholas Harbor, freak athlete, really, really great grades, like 6'5", 260, and can run. They need to get him involved, by my estimation, somehow, some way. He was kind of a non-factor last year. One other name you will recognize if you're an LSU fan that they've brought in at South Carolina is Rocket Sanders, former Arkansas running back who was great 2 years ago, was hurt last year. Word is that he's feeling a lot better. Knee injuries are not a lot of fun, but apparently he's getting better. Defensively, South Carolina was last in the SEC in sacks last year. They were second to last in TFLs. I do power rankings every Wednesday during football season, basketball season, baseball season, and they were consistently coming up way down towards the bottom, and because statistically it was so bad. Like, they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't protect the quarterback. They couldn't get TFLs. They couldn't get sacks. They gave up a bunch of passing yards. Like, there was one stretch over 2 games where quarterbacks completed like 88% of their throws against South Carolina. It was just awful across the board. They've got to find a way to be a ton better. And LSU will see them very, very early. And I like that a lot because I think they could potentially be better in November than they are in September with a new quarterback and transfers everywhere and not knowing who their wide receivers are. And not like, it's just a lot of new. And they're going to have a great environment when LSU goes there at 11 noon their time in week 3. But I feel good about where LSU stands in that game. When we look at the schedule, I'm finding it difficult to get South Carolina to a bowl game, quite frankly. But we can try. They start with Old Dominion. Then they're at Kentucky in week 2. I don't love that. Then they play LSU in week 3. I don't love that. Then they play Akron. Then they've got a bye. They can probably collect themselves at that bye where I think they're going to be 2-2. Then what do they do after that? Because it's absolutely brutally hard. Ole Miss at home, don't love their chances. At Bama, don't love their chances. At Oklahoma, don't love their chances. Second bye. I think they're going to lose all 3 games before the bye week. That's not a very comfortable month to be in Columbia, South Carolina. At that point, I think they're going to have 5 losses, and Shane Beamer will be on the hot seat. That's what I think looking at this. So what do they do after that second bye? They got Texas A&M at home. I don't love their chances. They're at Vandy. They need to win that one for sure. Then they got Missouri, Wofford, at Clemson. I'll try to get to 6 wins with you. I'll give you Old Dominion. I'll give you Akron. I'll give you at Vandy. I'll give you Wofford. That's 4. You're telling me they're going to win 2 of these games. They got to win 2 of these games. I'm rattling off. At Kentucky, okay. LSU at home. A&M at home. Missouri at home. I just don't know. And if you tell me that's back-to-back 5-win seasons for Shane Beamer, like, what are we selling here? Now, South Carolina is a self-aware football program. They, prior to Steve Spurrier, had virtually 0 success. Lou Holtz gave them a blip. If they had been dead on the table for 3 decades, Lou Holtz shocked them into life briefly. You got a couple of little blips on the screen. And then they flatlined again. And Steve Spurrier brought them to heights they'd never seen. He was fantastic there. They threw it around. He got Alshon Jeffrey and he got Lattimore and he got Stephon Gilmore. And, like, they were good, Ingram, for a brief time. But since then, they haven't been. And maybe they're okay if they feel like they've got a good coach who's great in the community, who works really hard and is going to put up a fight and is going to beat Vanderbilt and knock on the door a couple other times. Now, keep in mind, they had Georgia down 14-3 at halftime last year. But I don't have a lot of optimism about this program. And if I'm LSU, I love where this game sits on the schedule. I think South Carolina has the potential to still be a bit of a mess. I think that they have a chance to be coming off a loss at Kentucky. And I think LSU is going to go to Columbia and win. So that's the story on South Carolina. Shane Beamer will tell you they got 20-plus guys who are in their 5th year of college football, and maybe they're old, and maybe they figure it out, and maybe they're better than I thought, and maybe they win 7 games. I just don't see it. I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. I think most of the SEC assembled media thinks they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. Take that for what it's worth, which is very little, but I would tend to agree. So that's my thoughts on these South Carolina Gamecocks. If you're looking for all my thoughts on LSU's teams that they will play this year, as they go this week, we'll clip those after I talk about them and put them on Hunt on LSU. It's kind of an opponent preview section here in July at Hunt on LSU. When we come back, they're in round 6 of the Major League Baseball draft. There has been one player affiliated with the LSU baseball program that was just taken in the Major League Baseball draft. I'll tell you who that is and what that means. And the guys who have not been taken yet. We'll talk about all of it coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Every shot, every goal, ESPN Bet has fans covered for the biggest moments on the road to a championship. The exclusive sportsbook of ESPN is the only place to find special offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and personalities throughout the summer. New users get a bet reset up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. So download ESPN Bet today. What a play. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. In partnership with the Bears Lake Charles. Terms, conditions apply. See app for details.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows, live from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days, and it's LSU Day. We'll hear from the Tigers. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
Two is underway. Rounds 3 process. I'll refresh your memory. Players selected have, generally speaking, accepted an offer from a major league team financially. It's not signed. There got to be medical tests and all that kind of stuff that goes into it. But essentially, they've agreed to terms. Because if a Major League Baseball organization drafts someone in the first 10 rounds that does not sign, they lose that money from their draft pool. So it behooves you to sign the players that you draft. Rounds 11 through 20 are the wild, wild west. You don't sign somebody, no sweat off your back. It is what it is. And you negotiate what the money is on the other side. This is slotted. There's a pool. and folks that get drafted in the first 10 rounds are likely to go. So there has been another casualty of the LSU baseball signing class, and that is Cale Fountain. I've told you a lot about Cale Fountain over the last month. He's Nebraska's all-time high school home run king, big physical third baseman, first baseman type body. And the San Diego Padres took him number 151 in this draft. The slot value there is $444,000. So LSU will not get Cale Fountain to campus. He will enter the San Diego Padres organization. But we are in round 6, and allow me to go through this briefly before I put my foot in my mouth. Okay, yeah, as I go through round 6, we're halfway through round 6. There have been 177 picks made in the Major League Baseball draft. Griffin Herring, Jared Jones have not been selected to this point. The slot value in the middle of round 6 with the next pick is $348,000. Now, doesn't mean that you sign for $348,000. If an organization takes you and they save a bunch of money on picks that they make in the other 9 rounds of this first 10 rounds, they can move money around and offer you over that slot value, sometimes a significant amount. So you're never completely out of the woods, and to sit here and go, well, it would be crazy for Griffin Herring and Jared Jones to leave for only $345,000. The government's going to take half of that. That means you're at 170, and then your agent's going to take 100 of that. So now you're down to, and all of a sudden, you've worked him down to 125K. Why would you leave for that? It's not necessarily like that. I will suggest this. When I was handicapping this situation for Jared Jones and Griffin Herring, and I looked at where I thought they would need to be taken to get the money that I thought they would want, and this is with no inside information, I was looking at rounds 3, 4, 5. When you start to get into the 6th round, into the 7th round, you start talking about real opportunity for guys to go back to school. Doesn't mean that's going to happen, but that's kind of where we are. So if you want to assess LSU's situation right now, you lost Connor Griffin, Cam Caminiti last night. You lose Cale Fountain today. William Schmidt and Cade Arambidi have both tweeted, hey, we're out, we're coming to school. Now you start to look at the rest of the signing class. You're looking at Kaysen Evans. You're looking at Maverick Rizzi. You're looking at Connor Ware. You're looking at Mikey Ryan. And you're looking at an opportunity where LSU may come up roses at this part of the draft. I want to reiterate, LSU is in no way out of the woods with these guys because you can move money around and find extra. But right now, it feels like it up as I just say that. I'm looking at the draft tracker that pops up. Griffin Herring's named the next off the list. The New York Yankees have selected Griffin Herring with their pick in the 6th round. He goes number 181 overall, and that draft slot value is $340,000. So that was real time as I was looking at the tracker. His name popped up right in front of the Cubs, but the Yankees do take him. They took Thatcher Hurd 89th in this draft earlier. So Griffin Herring is not going to be part of this LSU baseball program moving forward. I told you on Friday my best information that was that Griffin Herring had kind of decided he wanted to move on. And the thinking behind that is he had such a great year. He's not going to have a better year in terms of his numbers versus hitters. Yes, it can look different as a starter. And I thought a month ago when I assessed this situation that, hey, Griffin Herring is a guy who can come back, be offered an opportunity to start, and that could change his profile. Show a change up. That's good. Show that you can go each and every week, 6, 7 innings into a ball game. That changes your profile. You may be able to rise up draft boards, and instead of being a 6th-round pick, you may be a 2nd-round pick. And that's a significantly different chunk of change, theoretically. We'll see what Griffin Herring decides to sign for, what number he looked at. But the other part of it is you become an older player at that point. You become close to 22 years old in that draft, and that is old for Major League Baseball teams who like to draft 18 and 20-year-olds. So it appeared this writing was on the wall back a few weeks ago, and I kind of told you on Friday that I thought that's where things were headed. Turns out that in the 6th round, the Yankees do take Griffin Herring. I also told you back on Friday that I thought there was a real chance for Jared Jones to return to school. I still feel that way. And this stuff changes at the drop of a hat. It takes one phone call, 90 seconds. Hey, Jared Jones' agent, we're here calling you in the 6th round. We think we can offer you $858,000. Agent looks at Jared Jones. Jared Jones looks at agent and goes, yep. And then that pick is in. Like, that's how quick this can turn. These negotiations generally take longer than that, but that's how quickly it can happen. So for right now, as we look at day 2 in the draft, as far as LSU goes, Thatcher Hurd, 89th overall to the Yankees. Cale Fountain, 151st overall to San Diego. Griffin Herring, 181st overall to the New York Yankees. The slot value for Griffin Herring, $340,000. The slot value for Cale Fountain, $444,000. I haven't looked at Thatcher Hurd's slot value. I'm curious about that, so I'll do it as we're sitting here live on the air. He went 89th overall in the 3rd round, so if I pull up round number 3, 89th overall, Thatcher Hurd right there. Slot value for Thatcher Hurd, $838,000. So good for Thatcher. I hope he signs for every single penny of that, and I hope these guys have a ton of success moving on in their professional careers. But the MLB draft continues to work on. The completion of this draft for today should be sometime in the next hour and a half, I would think. So in the middle of Matt's show today from SEC Media Days, he should have a pretty good feel for where things stand. Right now, the names you're looking for if you're LSU, Jared Jones, who you're all very familiar with, Kason Evans, a right-handed pitcher who's a really good athlete out of the Houston area, Maverick Rizzi, big 6'9" right-handed pitcher who's got tons of potential as a high-velocity, big-frame arm. Connor Ware, who I really, really like in this signing class. This is about where I thought Connor Ware might fit in. He's a junior college product. He's left-handed. He profiles as a starting pitcher. I really like his delivery. I really like his stuff. I think he's got a chance to be really, really good. I'm hoping LSU can get him through this draft, but I told you on Friday I thought he would sign. And then Mikey Ryan, the shortstop from Rummel. And you're kind of reaching the point in the draft where I thought he would go to round 5, 6, 7, maybe even 8th round. I thought there was a chance you could lose Mikey Ryan there. So long way to go from that perspective. But those are the names that I'm kind of looking at here for LSU. I don't think Fidel Ulloa or Michael Braswell is going to go today. I think those are Tuesday guys, but we'll have to see as things kind of shake out. But we'll have a good feel for what LSU's team is going to look like here in the next 90 minutes. And if anything happens over the next 19 minutes, I'll let you know about it here as we wrap up here on the Hunt Palmer Show. I want to remind you about Gulf Coast Office Products. They bring you our Monday shows each and every week. I tell you the story every week because I think it's a perfect encapsulation of what they are at Gulf Coast Office Products. No matter what type of business you're working with, you can work with the mom and pop shop, and you'll have a great relationship with them. If you call them, they'll pick up the phone, and it's a great experience. Maybe they're local and can get to you, but do they have all the capabilities, all the resources that you need? You can work with the big box store, but you're kind of a line item, and you may get a recorded line if you call, and you may not have a great relationship, but they can do a lot of stuff. Well, Gulf Coast Office Products straddles that line beautifully. If you work with Gulf Coast Office Products for your printing, scanning, copying needs, you're going to have a great relationship with your rep, whether it's Trey or anybody else over there at Gulf Coast Office Products. They're going to pick up the phone. They've got the ability to get to you anywhere in the state of Louisiana. It's a great company that's got great roots here in our state. And they also have a ton of resources. They've got people all over the state. They've got $1 million of inventory right here. They've got a great team that'll come out and work on your printer, scanner, copier if you're having some issues. If the issues are significant, they can get you a new one very, very quickly so you're up and running. It's awesome, awesome people, an awesome, awesome organization over there at Gulf Coast Office Products. You can check them out online at gcopnet.com. All your printing, scanning, copying needs, it's Gulf Coast Office Products. We'll take a timeout, come back, and close out a Monday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com. We had an issue at the Palmer House last week with our smoke alarm. It was showing that it was disconnected, and we weren't exactly sure why. So my wife did what we've done when we've had some issues. We call Mitchell Fisher. Mitchell Fisher's the owner of the company, Audio Video Security Solutions. He was over at our house that afternoon. He came over. He said, oh, yeah, you just got to pinch it like this and plug it back in, and it's good as new. We screwed it up. It wasn't anything that happened initially, and Mitchell fixed it very, very easily. He was happy to do it, and it was great to see him because he was over our house that afternoon. That's the kind of customer service you're going to get with folks at Audio Video Security Solutions. Should you trust them with your audio at your house, with your video at your house, or your security at your home? They're also happy to work with you commercially on business products with your security, audio, video, all that they can handle. They're right here in Baton Rouge. They've got a showroom right here in Baton Rouge. And I'm going to give you Mitchell Fisher's phone number right here, 225-439-7920, 225-439-7920. They're the People's Choice Award winner for the best vendor at the Parade of Homes this year. They're fantastic folks. If you're looking to do something with audio, video security, they're your folks at Audio Video Security Solutions. Check them out online, avssla.com.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Moscone.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR, presented by Relief Windows, live from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days, and it's LSU Day. We'll hear from the Tigers. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
.104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge is giving you the opportunity to win $2,000 a day with our 2K a day summer cash giveaway. We'll have another keyword for you tomorrow morning at 8:35 a.m. and then again at 4:35 p.m. So tune in tomorrow to get that keyword. We'll have two, like I said, we'll have two tomorrow, 8:35 and 4:35 p.m. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge 2K a day summer cash giveaway is presented by Citizens Bank and Trust.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Gulf Coast Office Products.
One pick to go in round 6 of the Major League Baseball draft. The Texas Rangers have that selection, and they'll be on to round 7. Round 7, 8, 9, and 10. So 4 left to go here in the Major League Baseball draft today. Rounds 11 through 20 will take place tomorrow, and we'll catch you up on all that as we do generally on tomorrow's show. If anybody else comes off the board in the next 6 minutes, I'll be the first to let you know. But round 6 is over. Garrett Horn from Liberty University goes there. So on to round 7. Only 2 LSU casualties today. Well, other than Thatcher Hurd, but Griffin Herring and Cale Fountain been taken in the Major League Baseball draft. All right, Beck, take it or leave it.
All right, first one here. Pete Alonso will win his 3rd home run derby tonight. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to take it. He's made for that. He's big, strong dude, hits a ton of homers. Obviously, all the guys that hit in the home run derby are big, strong dudes that hit a ton of homers. But he's got it. He gets into a groove, doesn't overexert himself. And I'll be frank, I like the home run derby more than the dunk contest now. I think it's a little bit more exciting.
It's still not the best home run hitters in MLB, though.
No, it's not.
Contest.
I mean, I'd love to see Shohei up there bashing home runs for sure. But I think Alonso is great to watch. I will probably watch a little bit tonight, and I think he will win.
By the way, did you see the Celebrity All-Star game? Terrell Owens almost hit a home run out of the actual MLB park.
Out of Globe Life?
Yeah, he almost hit one over the fence. I
was about to say, I thought you meant out of the entire stadium,
no.
an actual home run.
No, he actually.
Still impressive.
Yeah, pretty impressive. All right, next one here. Big shot Bob McIntyre got his 2nd PGA Tour win yesterday in his home country, no less, draining a 22-footer for birdie on the 72nd hole to get a 1-stroke victory. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. It was a great win for him. He got his heart ripped out by Rory last year. Hit a bullet 2-iron in there to beat him. He's Scottish. You can hear it when he talks. He's very Scottish. Won the Scottish Open. Said he wanted that one outside the 4 majors. He's also a McNeese State Cowboy. They don't even have a golf team anymore after COVID. No, after COVID that went away, but he was on the golf team there. Yeah, it was great. The drop he got on 16 was a little bit much. He's in the waist-high fescue, and he sees a sprinkler head, so he gets a drop. Little questionable, but he did cash it in and made a great shot after that. So I was happy for him, happy to see that. It was a great win to knock it to 20 feet and then to make the birdie putt to win it. Did you see the picture of Saad Thagala on the patio overlooking? I thought that was pretty cool as well. So Bob McIntyre was asked yesterday after the round if he would be able to make his 3 o'clock press conference at the Open Championship 2.5 hours down the road. He said, don't think I'll be legally allowed to drive at that point, so no, I'm going to have to reschedule that,
Fair enough.
I thought was good decision-making by Bob.
Yeah, good stuff from him. Yeah, also, I know people were complaining about that drop on 16, but I don't put this on him. He knew that within the rules he could get that drop, so you got to take advantage of all the things you that you can get to help you win. So no problem with me from him doing that. Moving on, Lane Kiffin's plaid suit jacket today. Take it or leave it.
I will take it.
Okay.
At a cocktail party, wedding, business situation.
Preemptively.
It was good. I'll take it.
Okay.
But I learned this in my media training. When you're going to be on camera all day, maybe not as busy with the attire. I know that goes against a lot of folks, but if you watch, generally speaking, news anchors that aren't Craig Sager or whatever, you generally kind of go a little bit more muted for the camera because you don't want to disorient the viewer. But I thought it looked good. I thought Lane looked pretty good. I mean, he's looking better these days than early in his Ole Miss days. He was a little disheveled, a little sloppy. He's cut some LBs. He's got the hair fixed to a reasonable level. He's never going to be, on Maxim anytime soon, but I think he's done a better job of putting things together. So I salute Coach Kiffin.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the jacket. I think it looks good. I don't think it's too much. I think it's close to being too much, but I think it's just enough for him. He's a little bit out there. He's a little bit boisterous guy, so I think it fits his personality. Moving on, last one here. Sergio Garcia called yesterday the biggest day in Spanish sports history, due in part to his LIV Golf win. Now, of course, I will also mention that he is referencing the Spanish national soccer team winning the Euros, which also happened, as well as Carlos Alcaraz winning Wimbledon. So, take it or leave it.
I'll take it.
Okay.
But it has nothing to do with LIV. I think them winning what is it that they won? The Euro?
The Euro,
winning
Euro.
that, and Alcaraz winning Wimbledon over Djokovic. Huge day in Spanish sports. I'm confident nobody in Spain even know the Fireballs. I think he's on the Fireballs.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody in Spain knew that they won.
Well, I think they were playing in Spain.
Were they?
So
Still don't think anybody in Spain knew
well,
they
at
won.
least a few people that were at the tournament
I don't
knew.
think anybody was there. I think it was.
There had to
they
be
sold
some-
no tickets.
there
I
had
think
to
the
be-
rumor was that no one went. It was zero attendance.
Was that rumor from you?
It was.
Okay.
It wasn't from me. I spread that out there. I think it's. But look, I haven't been proven wrong to this point. I think there were no fans at the Fireballs Championship.
Well, the only reason I even knew it was in Spain was because I was looking at the leaderboards for golf and just happened to see the Live tournament and that it was in Spain. So that's the only reason I know. But there had to be a few people there, Hunt.
No, there didn't have to be. There doesn't have. No, they could have. It could have been unattended.
Okay.
I've seen them play a PGA Championship with no fans.
Well, yeah, but that was during COVID, was it not?
There was.
Okay.
This is Live. It's the same as COVID. Nobody wants to deal with it. Stay
Okay.
away. Stay as far away as possible. Live and COVID, basically the same thing.
Yeah, it was at it was in Spain at Real Club Valderrama.
Nobody cares.
Yep.
All right, that's it for Monday show. This one went by quick. I like this week of shows. We talk some football. We get some MLB draft. It's been good, but it's about to get better because Matt's in the middle of all the action on After Further Review, and he's about to drive you home with 3 solid hours from Radio Row, where LSU has been walking around. So I'm sure he'll have a lot of great content. If you miss any of our show, you can catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, or of course on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow talking about the 4 teams to take the podium and reaction to the Major League Baseball draft. Have a great Monday. The Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Érase una vez un Infinity, diseñado para despertar tu imaginación y desafiarte a soñar, con 3 lujosas filas de asientos. El totalmente nuevo Infinity QX80 de 3 filas